I'd like to welcome on screen Mr. Rahul Kadri, partner and principal architect at IMK Architects. A very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Kadri, over to you. Would love to hear your thoughts, sir.
Thank you so much. Just yeah. So I'm going to be talking about something very different from product. And thanks, Phillips, for your wonderful presentation and what 3M does. Um, I'm going to talk about uh, places we inhabit and how our places affect us fundamentally. Fast-paced contemporary lifestyle has led to a sense of isolation, created a great disconnect with nature. So this sense of isolation and connection with nature is what I'm going to talk about. How to bring it back in our cities. Density is always seen as a problem, it's overcrowded and the kind of the problems it leads with green spaces, air, vegetation, um, sewage. We pollute our water. So a lot of issues to do with density, traffic jams, lack of spaces, um, using streets as playground. So really a key to better understanding of our health lies in our connection with nature and fostering interaction with human beings. These are the two pillars on which, if we can design our cities, I think it will make a huge difference in the way we live and the joy that will be available in our lives. So we crave interaction with nature as human beings, but we also crave interaction with each other. So wouldn't it be wonderful to have cities portrayed here, where you have your buildings, but you also have courtyards in which you can meet, etc., and not courtyards like this, which because no corridors and there's no they're essentially dead by the way they're designed. So there's a big, great difference in the way courtyards need to be designed. Um, but biophilic architecture is really new buzzwords, and introducing plants as much as we can in nature in our buildings is definitely a new trend. This is a rural hospital we're doing in outside Pune. So it's just so calming when you enter this. Um, New trends, vertical farming, rooftop farming, city farming parks. So just bringing nature into the cities is something we really need to do. Let's just first understand this issue of density and what does it mean and what is an ideal density. So, Mumbai has a density of 32,000 people, but across the world, there's different densities. What we found is a density of about 10,000 people per square kilometer is something that really works. And if you take all the people in Maharashtra uh, and the ones who are also going to move into cities in the next 30 years, about 78 million people, uh, you need only 2.4% of the land, which means there's more than enough land in the state to accommodate everybody really well. So, and if you see how our land is used, forest is 20%, is fallow land 8%, unutilized 30%, pasture land about 17%, and urban areas is already 4.3%. So we already have almost double the land urbanized from what we need. So where is things going wrong? So my hypothesis is this: really it's about planning. It's how the city is used and planning for it. So the five principles I'd like to introduce for healthy cities so that they connect us to nature and to humans is one, having a transport-led development. Then, and I'll explain this later, having city and country thinkers, where the um, where, where the country and the city really are join as fingers together, but having a rural transect where you have a range of um, uh, typologies in a city, and coming down to the level of neighborhood, making it walkable, and then how the edge of the building is designed is important. So, we all know that transportation is an issue, and public transportation is really the key. Focusing any money on private transportation, it'll never work. You can never solve the traffic problem. No country in the world has solved the traffic problem, even by spending billions and billions of dollars. But you can solve it by public transportation. And I think metros and bus rapid transportation, BST buses as well, is a key answer um, to this. So investing in public transportation is one of the key things in making a city more livable and freeing up space to be used otherwise by, um, sorry, this is the kind of transect, this is the kind of images we'd like to see in the city. So you want various things. You want a natural reserve, you want agricultural fields, you want a rural zone, a general urban zone, an urban center, and an urban core. This is what I meant by city and country fingers, wherein the countryside should come into the city, and the city should be only 1.5 meters, 1.5 kilometers wide and linear, so the transportation networks can also work extremely well. And wouldn't it be lovely if, 750 meters away, you could be in rural area or in the forest area. So these are the kinds of different zones that should be available to people. And instead of saying urban and rural, we really need to have a mix of all this. So natural reserve, agricultural field, a rural zone, general urban zone, urban center, and urban core. And if we use this to plan our cities rather than the way we do it now, where there's the same FSI everywhere. In fact, we should have FSI of 6 or higher right in the urban core. And then as you go out from the urban center, general, urban, rural zone, agriculture, natural reserve, the FSI should go down to 0. And the width of this needn't be more than 1.5 kilometers or 2 kilometers. So from the center, you can reach a nature reserve very easily. You could even just walk there. And to do this, and to use, we just need FSI 0.9 on an average in a city. You don't need FSI 4 everywhere, because that will create density which are way too high. So you just need an FSI of 0.9 on an average, but it's on a sliding scale. So that's one of the key things that we need to have a variation. Our neighborhoods need to be compact so that we can walk and land use. So far, the land use plan of the cities for the last 30 years has been, this is a residential zone, and then that over there is an office zone, and that over there is an industrial zone, and that over there is a retail zone. That needs to change. It needs to become mixed use so that you can walk to work, you can walk to school, you can you don't have to commute long distances. It should all be available between a 15-meter walking distance. And we need our blocks, which can house up to 200, 300 families with a common playground, car parking, etc. So you have a block of, say, 60 meters by 90 meters, or 90 meters by 120 meters, and these is where people live. So something like this. So this can be one urban block, and we can vary the height on this, but it becomes a self-sufficient block. But there's lots of green space within it, and the street network such that social spaces are available at the junctions. And as you can see in the image, there's much more space given to the pedestrian and the cyclist, and much less space, and the car is not allowed to go straight through. Car is slowed down the city. Um, lots of so, so street space can be reclaimed if a lot of the mass movement is happening underground. Um, the edges of buildings, I think we make a big mistake in India by having a very simple thing like when we have our roads and we have buildings, we have something called the front open space. That front open space needs to become a public space so that the building forms the edge of the road and not an amorphous space which is there between the road and the building, which is really, we waste almost 10% of our urban space in that front open space because we don't have our buildings on the edge. This is what I mean by having the building on the edge. So you can create tremendous character. But this is a pedestrian street, but if you have uses at the edge, it changes the character of the street completely. And lastly, we need to build on successes rather than trying to build new cities. Old cities, existing cities have jobs, have a network of friends and relatives, have schools, infrastructure. So we need to upgrade the cities rather than looking to build new cities. Having said that, if we were to aim at building, 100 smart cities in India or a lakh amazing smart towns, we need to analyze which town we need to really grow based on the density. And we've done a study on this that there are certain towns where the density is already too high, and you should not focus on that. But you should also use parameters like natural features, rainfall, favorable the terrain, rivers, make sure it's drought free, accessibility, how much forest area is nearby, the economic potential. And by doing that, we found that these 9 cities are the ones that Maharashtra should really focus on and grow because they have the potential based on all these parameters and the densities are fairly low. So Nagpur, Wardha, Jalgaon, Pune, Kolhapur, Ratnagiri, Aurangabad, Kampi and Nashik. These are the ones we should focus on, and we should defocus on Mumbai and the greater Mumbai region only because just the density is getting extremely high, and getting simple things like water over here and recycling our sewage because there's just so much of it produced, it's almost impossible. That's what I have for this morning. Thank you all so much. Uh,
Thank you so much, Mr. Kadri, and what a wonderful presentation. We should defocus on certain metropolitan cities and focus on the others where the density is lesser. I think if the government and people start looking into it, we should be at a better place. Thank you so much, Mr. Kadri, for your time and insights here with us. Ladies and
thank
gentlemen,
you.
thank you, sir.